Steelworks issue 1 finds Natasha trying to determine where the laser fire is coming from. Her soldiers are unable to explain it properly, but they think that it's their own systems, with something tripping them and registering them all as threats all over the room. Natasha suddenly spots Sean, who directs a cannon to fire right at her as he phases through a wall. Steel, however, arrives, blocking the blast as he overrides the security settings. As he continues blocking the energy beams, he asks Natasha if she remembers that time on the moon with the Brainiac drones. The hero understands what her uncle means, leaping into action and using her own hammer to smash up the distracted cannons. Steel directs her to give him a manual override of controls, so Natasha smashes up nearby computers, taking the cannons offline. Natasha regroups with her uncle, asking what the hell happened, but John has no idea since something was triggering and scrambling the sensors at the same time. But there's nothing wrong with the code, it just detected something and fired. John thinks that he overlooked something, but Nat knows that she saw someone in the room with them. Later in the workshop, the Irons look over the security footage, spotting Sean phasing through a wall in the footage. John knows that the systems registered him as a threat, but couldn't lock on to him thanks to his phase abilities. Natasha thinks that her uncle needs some security protocols so the system doesn't do this again, but John reveals that he did have them. But when this man phased through the walls, he shorted out the building's systems, leaving only the weapon's base fire functions operational. Natasha thinks that it's a fatal flaw in the system and John wants to patch it up, but Nat believes that it's so he can prevent another hero from having to swoop in to save the day. The next day, Sean is taken to see Charles, who has heard that he had a fun night at Steelworks. He asks if he is intrigued by all of this, but Sean isn't, wanting to hit the man. Charles welcomes it, and Sean lashes out, but his hand just phases right through Charles, who wishes to tell Sean what is happening to him. The villain reveals to Sean that he's given him away to bring down John Henry Irons, showing him a costume he developed for him, telling him that he will go by the name Silver Mist, and with the suit, he will be able to remain in a solid state, yet still use his powers properly. Charles believes the fun can begin now, but Sean doesn't find this one bit funny, making Walker remind the man that Steel took away Sean's legacy and life. He reveals a small caveat to his powers though, saying that if he stops while inside of a solid object, he will become part of that object and he will be killed instantly. Sean wants to test it out and put his fist back through Charles's head, but Charles says that if the man does that, he will never be a normal man again, revealing that he will completely reverse the experiment on Sean, but only if he takes down John Henry Irons' crown jewel, Steelworks Tower. Charles explains that John is planning on tapping into an energy source Superman brought back from Warworld to give Metropolis free energy and power, which is bad for his business. Charles tells Sean that he's going to infiltrate Steelworks' central core and retrieve the energy source from the computer files, then flip the force field on the building and cause it to implode on itself. Sean hopes that he'll be able to see his kids again, as at the Steelworks central core, John is met by Jay Nakamura, who alerts him to the Superman family arriving. John thanks Jay, finding it great to have him working at Steelworks as their press officer. Jay thinks that the Supers need some decent PR since they have none before. Jay begins to fill John in on the goings-on the company as they head up to the offices, telling him that Lana called to talk about the florist. John doesn't really know what to do since between the launch of the company and the Metallo attack, he hasn't had much brain power for anything else. John believes that felt weird to say as they arrive to meet Superman and his family. Clark apologizes for being late since there was a bank robbery, but the family take their seats and John asks them to hear him out before they tell him what they think. Supergirl reminds him that he is one of the family, so they will listen to him. Superboy, however, thinks that John has finally lost it, revealing Natasha already told them all of John's plans. Kara knows that Metropolis needs them and Connor and John both end up agreeing with her. John calms them down, not suggesting that they abandon the city, only suggesting that they aren't gods and they can't see the future, reminding them that they all know about the butterfly effect. The Super Twins surprise everyone by also knowing about the butterfly effect, proving that their tutelage is paying off. John states that he's not asking for anything, only wishing to explore a different path, since as superhumans, they should be able to make a difference that looks at the collateral damage their acts cause, and looking at the actions that save one single person has on others. John reminds the family that it's almost the anniversary of Doomsday's attack on Metropolis, and while they are considering attending the celebration of Superman's return after his death, he thinks they should attend, but wants them to know that with his new tech, the hundreds who died and the billions of of dollars worth of damage that Doomsday caused wouldn't have happened, and he thinks that they should spread that feeling of being super around, giving everyone the tools to protect themselves. He implores them to rethink their roles in Metropolis as Natasha spots the silver mist on the street below. She leaves the meeting abruptly, getting Superman's attention as John Henry tells John that he was right when he was serving as the world's only Superman, and he took a more active role in the challenges of their time. He wants the family to finally make that change, as outside, Natasha armors up, telling security to stay behind as she pursues Silver Mist into an alley. The villain, however, gets the drop on her, phasing through her suit and disrupting it, knocking it and Natasha out.